we were talking earlier about how it seems that we've attracted an audience of people who are interested in our opinion on non-genre films.
Yeah.
Picked a bad week to go heavy on the animation.
Yeah,
So,
we did.
so, so for those who are new to the show, we usually do a something old, something new pairing,
Hmm.
and our something new is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the second of the Miles Morales focused Spider-Man films.
Yes, and I dressed appropriately for the occasion.
I did not.
That's all right. Yeah. So we watched this on Netflix, and I will confess I didn't really care much for the first movie. I thought it was okay.
I think I liked it a bit more than you did.
Mm,
Uh, I will say this is definitely the only version of Miles Morales I actually care about because I've
yeah.
read. Okay, because cards on the table, lifelong Spider-Man fan.
Mhm.
I distinctly remember when the 90s Spider-Man cartoon came out and they had like a single weekend, like they had a preview of it, right? That episode where he ran into the lizard.
Yeah.
And I was so bummed out when there wasn't another episode the next week and the show actually started a few weeks later.
Oh.
I was probably like 7 at the time. I had so many Spider-Man toys. I was buying so many Spider-Man comics. I loved the Clone Saga, and I thought it was cool that there was a Spider-Man whose name was Ben, like me.
Yes.
uh, the oops. Oh well.
Yeah.
Eh, eh, Anyway, it's always been known that it's what do you call it? Pseudonym. Anyway,
Yes. Yeah.
I, and like Spider-Man, when what is it the one Marvel comic that I'll consistently go back to, though I haven't since Superior Spider-Man. Not because I was angry at Superior Spider-Man. I actually really enjoyed that story because it was an
Mhm.
interesting thought experiment.
Yeah.
It's just afterwards, Dan Slott just had no more ideas,
Yeah.
but he still was still keeping up with the book for some reason. Uh,
Because he was
but
being paid to do it.
I say that to just kind of give context to Miles Morales sucks in the comics, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They have from everything I've read. I mean, he literally was meant to be a replacement for Peter Parker. That's going to offend me personally because Peter Parker is my guy.
Yeah.
Because he literally was made up in the Ultimate Universe to replace Peter Parker after they killed him off. So
Mhm.
that's always going to rub me the wrong way. But I've also read a number of comic book appearances of him, both in the Ultimate and the normal Marvel universe. Dude's just boring in the comics. I'm sorry, he has nothing. He
Yeah.
has, from what I've seen, he doesn't have original villains. He mostly fights Peter's rogues gallery. They,
Uh,
they even gave him a clone, or they even gave him a clone saga. Like it
uh,
was literally the clone saga,
oh,
just with Miles
jeez.
Morales.
Yeah, man.
Like the writers over at Marvel have not done a good job of making me care. Also, I'm an Xbox guy, not a PlayStation guy, so I have not played the Insomniac Spider-Man games, so I have no opinion of them.
Yeah. I played the first one. I was impressed with it. I thought it was a lot of fun to play. I didn't care for the DLCs. Those were pretty bad. I haven't played the second one yet, but I have not heard good things about it.
And I mean, I've been seeing that D Rhino's been coming out with a few videos, taking the game to task a bit.
Yeah.
Uh, I would say jury's out until I actually get around to playing it.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, to get into this movie, uh,
That's right. The whole reason I gave that background, I actually really liked Miles in the first movie. So just to give you an idea of what they managed to accomplish with that first movie, they
mhm.
made me give a damn about Miles Morales.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say that's fair. Yeah.
Because so quick summary, there's a multiverse, kids, and there's Spider-Man in all of the multiverses. And in the first one, a bunch of them have to team up after the Peter Parker of Miles's universe dies, and he gets bitten by a spider and becomes a Spider-Man of his own.
Yes, and they have to stop Wilson Fisk from using the multiverse to what was it? It was bring back his wife and kid, right?
Yeah, like they had died in an accident, and he was trying to I think it was like find a version of them at least.
Right. Yeah.
So sorry, my phone is just blowing up right now, but it's something I actually have to pay. So I often shop online at Walmart these days.
Yeah.
Um, the one problem is that they really overload you with announcements because they text you and they email you.
Oh, yeah.
So
Amazon does that too. Yeah.
when I get both on my phone, they it sounds like I'm blowing up when I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this movie starts. So I'd say that this movie has kind of a pacing problem.
Oh, yes. It's
It,
it's it's almost 2.5 hours. Yeah.
and that's nuts when you consider this is part one of two,
Yeah.
which we were talking about before the show. I believe on Netflix it refers to it as Across the Spider Verse Part One. That was not on this movie poster on IMDb. It was not
uh,
on any advertisements.
No, no. They did not tell anybody that this was a part one of two. At,
Yeah.
at least with me, with Guardian Angel, I made it very clear this was part one of two.
Yes. And what do you call it? And guess when we get part two? 2026. Because they worked the animators like dogs for this one, and then I believe the strike got in the way.
Oh, of course. And yeah, with this animation style, yeah, I would imagine it takes a long time to animate it.
Yeah, because the way I would describe the animation style of this one, um, so there's a Cartoon Network show from a few years back called Gumball. That the premise, like part of the premise of it, is that he went to this school where, like, he was a 2D animated character, but they had like every character was a different animation style. There were some who were
Mm,
claymation, some who were 3D animated, some like a whole bunch of different varieties of 2D animation. That
mm.
was part of the show's appeal. This one is very similar because you not only have all these different Spider-Man up in the corner here, you have people who are just very divergently animated.
Yeah, and even a few live action too.
Yeah, and because it's Lord and Miller who made the Lego movie, they even have a moment in a Lego Spider-Man universe.
Yeah.
So like I will say that the animation looked these movies, I don't know what they do with the trailers, but they always look more herky jerky than they actually look in practice because it is the dropped, it's kind of like the low frame rate that you see
Yeah.
movies like Puss in Boots do in places,
Yeah.
but it's never as much as in the trailers. So I keep wondering if the trailers were getting the production cuts where they are still working to like with the in betweens.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah, because yeah, this one wasn't nearly as herky jerky as I thought it would be.
Yeah, like it's actually, I think it's probably smoother than the original, which makes sense because they had more money to throw at it.
Right. Yeah.
Um, then voice acting perspective, I don't think anybody especially stood out one way or the other. It's like the
Yeah.
returning cast from the original is good.
Yeah. Um, I thought so. Oscar Isaac voiced Miguel,
Okay,
and I thought he was okay.
yeah, aka Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who. Yeah, what's funny is the Peter Parker, the guy who voices Peter Parker in this.
Hmm.
It's Tom Cruise's sidekick from The Mummy.
Oh no,
Yeah.
oh no.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so like we talked earlier, this movie has some pacing problems. Part of the reason it has pacing problems is that it is a 5 hour story.
Right. Yeah, and you pointed this out when we were watching it over the weekend. It has two prologues.
Yeah, which is so weird.
Yeah,
Uh, so that's kind of our preliminary, like, production wise. I can't really say anything bad about it from like an animation, acting,
yeah,
has a nice soundtrack.
mhm,
But
yeah,
boy, this movie was intensely frustrating for me as a longtime Spider-Man fan and lover of non-irony.
yeah,
Because Lord and Millard all over it, and it got tiresome.
yeah,
Because there's like two movies in here.
mhm,
One is a very serious story about um, Miles and Spider Gwen, aka Ghost Spider, dealing with the feeling of isolation of being a superhero and being unable to tell anybody.
yeah, and she has issues with her dad.
Right. Because in her universe, and this reflects how her story happened in the comics, Peter Parker turned into like in her universe, she got bit by the spider. Peter Parker was the lizard,
Yeah,
and he ended up dying in the course of fighting with her. And so now she's wanted for murdering Peter Parker.
right.
But since
Yeah,
her dad is Captain Stacy, this is a little bit awkward
yeah,
to be under the same roof as a police officer.
right. Yeah,
Sidebar: I tried to get a friend of mine into American comics a few years back, and he mentioned really liking the art style of the Spider-Gwen comics. So we got him a few volumes for Christmas one year. And this is a guy who didn't mind Chloe from Life is Strange, the annoying uh,
oh yeah, yeah,
e-girl, the
yeah,
Ramona
yeah,
Flowers type. He
right.
found Spider-Gwen in that comic so off-putting that he didn't even finish the first volume.
Oh,
Swing and a miss.
yeah,
So this is another character that they improved on from the original comics, because while Spider-Gwen can be a little bit edgy girl at times, or like emo, it's like
yeah,
she is mostly tolerable. Yeah,
yeah,
tolerable to good.
mhm,
But yeah, so we have her backstory where we're introduced to the whole Spider Verse thing.
mhm.
When they run into a version of the Vulture from an alternate universe that is basically Da Vinci's Notebook.
Right. Yeah, which was very odd. And they show up in the Guggenheim
Hmm.
Museum in New York, which it's if you've ever been there, it's the one that has the spiral ramp that goes up.
Which I haven't, but yep.
Yeah.
It's like they have a neat set piece fight there with her and this weird alternate universe Italian Renaissance drawing Vulture, which is animated very nicely. It's like we
Hmm.
have so it's like, okay, this movie is kind of getting me, and it's a Spider-Man story. Any Spider-Man worth his salt, his or her salt, I guess, is going to be exchanging some quips with the villain.
Right. Yeah.
It becomes kind of a problem when you have three or four Spider-Men all trying to be funny at the same time.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. That whole sequence in there was just like, I mean, constant jabbering back and forth and everywhere.
A- And even in like Miguel, Spider-Man 2099, who shows up and inducts Spider-Gwen into his spider posse,
Yeah.
is not even like he's supposed to be hyper serious.
Yeah, and he wasn't hyper
Yeah,
serious.
or- right. He was kind of the straight man, but even he was making a couple of gags. It's like
Yeah.
that's the second movie, is the meme-tastic isn't Spider-Man funny movie,
Hmm.
which conflicts heavily with the more serious movie.
Right. Yeah.
And so I liked the more serious movie. Like, I liked the idea of Miles struggling with his
Mhm.
with who he is, and like like, does he tell his parents that he's Spider-Man?
Yeah. Yeah, and of course they do the classic Spider-Man story where he's Miles is trying to balance his Spider-Man life with his normal life.
Yep. And he runs into the Spot, who was created in the climax of the last movie when the Kingpin's particle accelerator or whatever went kaplooey.
Right. Yeah.
He's just like a featureless white guy covered with black spots.
Hmm.
And his fight with the Spot, where his dad is on the sidelines trying to be a police officer,
Hmm.
that scene set the tone. Like the second prologue basically set the scene for the whole movie, where it's like, there keep being cool moments and you almost are taking it seriously, and then the Spot literally kicks himself in the butt through one of his holes.
Yeah.
Like it was the exact moment where the Spot was getting PO'd when he realized that Miles had no idea who he was and didn't care that he was responsible for turning him into a featureless monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like,
I,
"Oh, this is going to get serious," and whoop, slip, foot goes into a portal. Portal kicks him in the butt, and he literally collapses on himself. Ha ha!
yeah.
This villain whose life was ruined is so funny.
Yeah. I, I wonder if the writers of this movie don't have ADHD.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it's very much in Lord Miller style,
Yeah. Yeah.
which does make me wonder what their version of Solo would have been like. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the movie is basically without going into like a deep or a blow by blow, it's
Mhm.
basically Miles isn't supposed to be there. Hell, this movie kind of has an undercurrent where Miguel is Miguel is almost the existing Peter fan base who doesn't see Miles as a valid Spider-Man because technically he wasn't supposed to be a Spider-Man.
Yeah, because the spider that bit him was from a different universe.
Yeah, and the problem with framing it that way, okay, so like on the one hand it kind of makes sense because Miles is the replacement Peter for the Ultimate Universe. He is the other Spider-Man when there's already so many Spider-Men, as you can see here.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of derivatives of that character, especially in the last 20 years.
Hmm.
um, the the thing is that they try to they make all of the other Spider-Men look bad to make Miles look good because okay, so the thing with a multiverse, like if you or the multiversal story like this,
Hmm.
multiverses do bring into question things like free will, chance, destiny, whatever. Like is am I sitting here in this green shirt because I thought it looked nice when I was online, or am I from the alternate universe where two other people didn't buy this shirt on Black Friday at Kohl's? Um, which philosophically might have something to it, but for a narrative, you kind of want things to be, intentional and going somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Which the thing is that Miguel is basically going. There is a certain order that things are supposed to be. You know,
Mhm.
For Peter Parker, there's always a Uncle Ben like figure who dies. Or
Mhm.
for Spider-Man, there's always an Uncle Ben like figure who dies, which in Miles' case was his uncle who was the Prowler.
Right.
Um, but there's also always a Captain Stacy-like character who is a captain in a police force of some sort who dies when something heavy falls on him during a fight with his enemy.
Right. And Miles, his father, is about to become a captain.
Yep, getting his promotion.
Yeah.
And so Miles rejects the idea that his dad has to die because of some natural order.
Hmm.
I so the thing is, a character I feel like should really be raging against the natural order? Peter B. Parker over here.
Yeah.
Because or Ben Riley over here, even since he's a clone of Peter.
Yeah.
Most Spider-Men, I feel like, would not be cowed by Miguel's idea. Okay, to be fair, they did express that the reason Miguel has this idea that things are the way they're supposed to be is because he changed things in one universe and that universe fell apart in a crisis of infinite Earths type thing.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, most Spider-Men are some sort of scientist, and even though Sony doesn't have the rights, they'd be friends with people like Tony Stark, Reed Richards.
Mhm.
In fact, the whole
Yeah.
Spider-Verse thing only makes sense if you're Sony and you only have the rights to Spider-Man characters.
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah.
And and so so movie is basically there to kind of fluff Miles, which I didn't mind. Like I liked the stuff with him and his family and Gwen.
Yeah.
I liked the smaller scale stuff.
Hmm.
Him running from literally hundreds of Spider-Men who are all just going in lockstep with what Miguel O'Hara said,
Yeah.
like quipping and trying to be funny the whole time, pointing at each other and
Yeah. Yeah. What? You.
yeah,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
Spider-Man, says Miguel, setting up the joke because, you can't have nice things.
Right. Yeah.
That's the other thing is that I can't think of a movie where I got taken out of it more than in Shang-Chi when he's explaining his dark backstory. I don't know why the lighting suddenly went all wonky.
Yeah. That's weird.
Anyway, we won't fix it in post.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there
There
we
we
go. There you go.
go. I think that Shang-Chi, the stupid airplane food scene
Oh,
where he
yeah.
gets interrupted partway through explaining his dark backstory.
Right.
Every time this movie started to get serious, oh, it's been 30 seconds. We need somebody to take the piss out of Miguel, even though he's the antagonist.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate this shift in storytelling, especially in superhero movies, where yeah, you're trying to have a moment of, yeah, like you said, a moment of seriousness, a moment of drama where you're the characters are about to go something, are going through something transformative, and you throw a joke in there.
Yep, just completely trip up the entire emotional arc. Which, it's funny because you weren't expecting it. F you, you were making me care, and now I don't.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I will never forgive Taika Waititi when when Asgard blows up and he makes a joke about it.
Yeah,
Like, come on.
yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, and I'm disappointed because I'm sure that Japanese Spider-Man was in the background somewhere, but Lord knows I couldn't find him
I
because there
couldn't
were
find
just
him either.
too many of them.
Yeah, I'm sure he was in there, but I didn't see him.
So yeah, it's like there's a level where am I taking this too seriously? Possibly,
Yeah.
but I take Spider-Man seriously. Like
Yeah.
I like the character. I like this version of Miles. I wanted I think that I see the temptation to do another Spider-Verse story,
Yeah.
especially because that's kind of what the series is titled.
Hmm.
But I would have much rather just had a story where he had to step into Peter's shoes uh, for a just like a serious just a serious villain.
Yeah.
Could have made up your own villain. Could have used someone from the comics.
Yeah. D Rhino asks, why do people like that movie?
So I think people will like this movie rather than emphasizing on like the character arcs and the drama they keep setting up. Enjoy the awesome, honestly, really awesome animation and
Hmm.
they appreciate the jokes.
Yeah.
So I can't fault somebody for that. Like, this isn't
Yeah.
a bad movie. It's just not a movie I would want.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah, I like I said, I didn't really care for the first movie that much, and I really didn't, and I kind of have the same feeling about this movie. It's just like,
Yeah. So just yeah, and I think that part of so I think the way to sum up our reactions to this was you were bored, I was frustrated, and part of the
yeah.
reason I was frustrated was because you didn't like the first movie that much. I liked the first movie more than you did, so I had
Mhm.
more expectations.
Yeah. 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 Dingling keys trick. Yeah.
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, they did my boy Ben Riley dirty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because like he got a few lines, they were all just making fun of his '90s style art, and I'm thinking about my dark backstory,
Yeah.
which they don't go into. So All right, you've taught a generation of kids that Ben Riley is a joke,
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than a guy who had a awful, tragic life. And
Yeah. Sorry, DB. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, again, this is based on the reaction of people I've talked to at work and other places. This is one of those me reactions. This,
Yeah.
which is part of like me wanting more serious stories, is part of why we started doing more classic movie reviews. Like they took things seriously back in the day.
Yes, they did. Mhm.
Imagine Death Wish if he was in the hospital, seeing his checking on his catatonic daughter,
Yeah. God, yeah.
and
And
a nun slipped on a banana peel in the background. Like that would not fit that scene at all.
right. Yeah. Man. Jeez.
Um, well, in terms of follow-ups to beloved classics, we're not out of the woods of disappointment just yet.
No, we're not. Yeah.
Okay, so as part of our okay,
Oh,
so I will just say, uh, so they really make that. So D. Ryan has a couple of questions about this before we move on. Actually, so you're an abnormality, you're an anomaly. I agree with 2099.
yeah.
That's the thing, is it isn't necessarily wrong to have that. It's just that we needed a more serious tone. And as much fun as it is to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Spider-Man,
Mhm.
um, could have done better if they'd had a smaller cast. Oh, and also, mysteriously, by some weird coincidence, none of the Spider-Verse characters that people would actually be looking forward to from the last movie were part of his posse or invited to his posse.
Right. Yeah. They don't. Yeah. They don't show up until the very end. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he also says, so did they really make the that film because they got tired of people saying, I don't think so. I think they just added that in there for, you know,
It
commentary.
like it adds dramatic weight to it to have like, for him to be the odd man out and to
Mhm.
like make his own path. So it's like I don't think they're just responding to people like Gary Beekler over at Nerdrotic saying that Miles Morales is Miles Morales. Um, but I had a hard time not reading that into it
Yeah. Yeah.
because like there's elements of it there, but I mean the
Yeah.
real reason they made this movie is because the first one, while it wasn't a huge box office success, it got a lot of views on Netflix. Like that's where it really took off, was in the secondary market.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
But yeah, like I said, like I don't hate Miles in this version. I actually wanted more of him because the ending, like where it was him being menaced by his alternate universe self,
mhm.
that was neat. Give me a movie about that if it has to be another multiverse story.
Right. Yeah.